On April 5th, over 5 million people took to the streets all across the country to protest the current regime and their actions. And I have mixed feelings about that protest. On the one hand, it was nice to see that level of engagement from the majority population and see them voice their opposition. One of the more troubling aspects of that protest was the emphasis on how peaceful it is. And on the surface, that doesn't seem like a terrible critique. But what does that tell you? You heard tons of reports about how protesters during the various protests all across the country were having conversations with police officers. And those police officers mentioned that there was very little police presence. What do you take away from that? Think about how the police response to a largely white protest is different from the police response to anything that was happening during the BLM protests. And it's instructive to pay attention to that. And the key thing, and one of my mutuals on another platform, she goes by the handle Delusional Influencer, made the observation that the protests on April 5th was more of a walkathon than anything else, because no one was inconvenienced by that protest happening. And that's reflected by the police presence. The police presence is where it is because they did not view that protest as a threat to anything that they were concerned about. And keep in mind, the function of the police is not to maintain law and order. The function of the police is to protect property and protect the property of the elites. That's what they're there for. They're not there to protect and serve. They're there to protect property and defend property. And the fact that there was such a light police presence indicates that they don't view this protest seriously. So what does that mean when it comes to the next one on the docket? If we want these protests to be meaningful, it's going to require the majority population who is going to be engaging in these protests to do something different. And what they can consider is taking a page out of the book of the European farmers when they felt that they were being abused by the various governments and trade and agricultural policy. So what did those farmers do? They took their tractors and parked them in the interstates of their countries and snarled traffic. So if we want the protests to catch the attention of the people that matter and give them a strong signal that we are serious and we want our demands recognized and we want a change of course, there's got to be a commitment from the majority population to inconvenience and put pressure on the people in power in real and meaningful ways. Having another walkathon is not going to accomplish much. Now, that doesn't mean that this needs to be turned into a violent free-for-all or anything like that. What it means is that the conversation needs to shift away from refreshment centers and bounce houses for kids and turned into an actual march and protest against injustice. This needs to be treated as a serious activity. The mindset that people need to have is not one of a walkathon or a carnival or a rally. It's a protest. That means leave your kids at home, make sure you have your people informed of where you're going to be, and you need to march with intention and with a purpose of creating good trouble and also making sure that people are inconvenienced and paying attention so that they also join the fray in pushing the people in power to move for change.